Good evening, Rabbi. We have coming up tomorrow night the holiday of Lag Bomer. So we have to understand a little bit what this holiday is about. It's relatively a new holiday. You know what that means? It's not something that we got from the Bible or even from the Talmud. Like this holiday came in later on, kicked in at a much later time, right? So the truth is that, the great rabbis tell us we shouldn't make new holidays. There's no reason to make new holidays in the Jewish calendar. Whatever we have, tradition, we have. Don't make new things now all of a sudden, newfangled things all of a sudden from your head. This is a holiday. What makes you think it's a holiday? But the truth is, right, this is the exception to the rule, Lag Bomer. Lag Bomer is a relatively new holiday. The truth is that if you look in the Shulchan Aruch, you won't find this holiday mentioned there at all. How long ago was the Shulchan Aruch? About 500 years ago. And nevertheless, right, from Maran, Bet Yosef, Rabbi Yosef Karo, this holiday was not something really so even relevant enough to mention it. It wasn't relevant enough for that. So the question is, if that's the case, right, what's so special about this holiday? Why do we have a new holiday like that, Lag Bomer, or something right newfangled that came from the sky? So the truth is, Rabbi, that this holiday is a very great holiday, nevertheless, right? Even though it's something new. And what is it based on? It's based on the issue of Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, right? Who was one of the greatest Tanaim that lived ever. Great Tana, Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai. Right? What does it mean, Tana? Tana is a person from a period of the Second Temple. Right? It started during the Second Temple era. Towards the end, there was all kinds of groups of rabbis that they started, right? And the Tanaim were one of the groups, one of the final groups that they had before the temple was destroyed. There was a final group that they had. Right? So these Tanaim were very, very great scholars, top notch, like nobody else can compare to them. And Rabbi Shimon, right, was one of those great scholars who was at that time. All these people, by the way, how great were they? They were able to revive the dead.
Charlie, keep it down, please. Charlie.
So these rabbis were so great, Abatai, they were able to revive the dead. That's how great they were. They could take a dead person who lost his life and bring him back to life. This is something very unusual, right? In our times, you don't have things like this. In those days, things were different. The Bet HaMikdash was still existent. There was a lot of holiness in the air. So what happened to Rabbi Shimon? What's the story with him, right? He was actually the Talmid of Rabbi Akiva. And as we already mentioned before, the last couple of weeks, what happened was that Rabbi Akiva had 24,000 Talmidim that died. And this is the reason why we were doing the customs of mourning that we had. And the customs of mourning, by the way, are being finished now. We're going to finish it when? On Lag Bomer, we're going to finish, right? Right after the day Lag Bomer, we're done with the customs of mourning. That's it, right? So that also is another good thing that happens with Lag Bomer. All the customs of the mourning now disappear, right? They go away. So we have to understand that too, right? How it all relates together, all these things. What happened was that Rabbi Shimon was one of the batch of new Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva after his old Talmidim already passed away. They all died, 24,000. So then what happened was that he got lucky enough, Rabbi Akiva, to find a new batch of Talmidim, right? This was not now, right? It wasn't any more quality. It was quantity. Wasn't quantity anymore. It was quality. Before that, right? It was quantity. 24,000. Oh wow, But now he only had 5 in the end. These were new guys from a different batch, So Rabbi Shimon was one of those new guys that came. Where did Rabbi Akiva find these Talmidim? He found them in the south, right? They say in the south of the Eretz Israel. He found them. Who were they, right? We had Rabbi Shimon, we had Rabbi Meir, right, and Rabbi Yosef and Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Eli. These were the top students of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Shimon was one of the great of also that group as well. What does that mean? Right, in terms of his abilities in Kabbalah, they far surpassed, right, all the others that were in that group. So in order to understand this a little bit better, right, what happens is like this, right? Rabbi Shimon, one day they say it, right, there's a Gemara brought down in Masechet Shabbat, Tractate Shabbat. Over there it says in Lamed Gimel, Shabbat 33, it says there that one day Rabbi Shimon was hanging around with 2 of his friends, rabbis, hanging around there, right, in Rome, going somewhere in the street there, right? So they came to a place where there was a beautiful marketplace that was built there by the Romans. Like a shopping mall, like a nice mall, whatever. You know how it is, right? These malls are very fancy. They're beautiful. They invest a lot of money in that, so it's like a really something special. So once Rabbi Akiva, right, and Rabbi Shimon and his friends see this mall, right, that square that they built over there. So one of his the friends of Rabbi Shimon commented. He says, look at the beautiful market that the Romans made. Isn't this gorgeous? Must have been a huge investment. We're talking about, right, at least $10 million, right, without a doubt. Beautiful investment. Look at this, gorgeous, right? So Rabbi Shimon answered him, right, regarding that. He didn't like this comment that his friend made. So what did he answer him? He said, he says, you guys don't understand. He says, you think that the Romans are making this market for our benefit? Well, you should be blessing them. You should be praising them. They're not doing it for their own purposes. What does that mean? The purposes, their purposes, for purposes of sins. To have prostitutes over there, prostitution. Hanging around, picking up girls. This kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Yeah, this kind of thing, right? You know how it is, right? In all these places, it becomes like a hangout. You pick up girls there. You this kind of stuff like that. That's what it was. Also, this one, right? The same idea. So Rabbi Shimon says this market was not created for good purposes. It was created for the purpose of being a hangout, a prostitution, basically a pickup place, pickup joint, one of these places. So what happens is, right, that Rabbi Shimon, what he says, it went a little bit further than their discussion, right? What does that mean? That the Romans got word of Rabbi Shimon's statement. So what happened was, right, that they say that, by the way, there's a statement, a pasuk, a verse in Shlomo Melech, right? It says over there, Shlomo Melech, that don't be careful what you say about, the government and authorities. You know why? Because if you say something, he says the bird will take it. The birdie will fly it over and tell them. The birdie will tell them, right? So now we understand very well what that means, right? Because we have those satellite birdies, that are able to hear what we're saying, even though they're hundreds of miles away from us. But they hear what we're saying, and they're able to transmit, right, those words that we say to the authorities. That's what happens, right? To the CIA and the FBI, all kinds of things like this, right? They say, by the way, I heard several years ago that this is what happened with Obama and Bibi, that he was spying on him. They were listening to Bibi's conversations in Jerusalem from here in Washington. That's right. Yeah, that's the birdie that we're talking about. We're talking about those satellite birdies, right? Those spy birdies, right? We're talking about. That's exactly what happened. So what happens is, right, that the Romans get word of this whole episode. That Rabbi Shimon, right, belittled them like that, right? Divided them, disgraced their kavod, their honor. So what happens is, right, that the Romans now send out an arrest warrant, right, for Rabbi Shimon. You know how it is, right? You know what happens when the FBI wants to arrest you, right? They come to your house in the morning, 5 a.m. before, like at dawn. You know what happened with that guy, right, in Florida. What's his name, right? That guy, right? They come to your house. They have, all over, right? They have dogs and, boats around you. They surround your whole house. They make it look like a big drama. That's what happens, right? So they were going to do that to Rabbi Shimon. Can you imagine? Come to him, before dawn, and bring all their, squads and all this, right? And SWAT teams and this, big guns. Okay, you're under arrest. Put up your hands, So Rabbi Shimon got word of that. You understand? They were coming to arrest him. Somebody told him. I guess their birdie came to him also, right? He had his own birdies, Each one of them has their own birdies, right? So he also got word of that. So what did he do? He ran off, right? He left. He escaped before they came. Yeah. Right? I guess the only one who gets those birdies is Rabbi Shimon and CNN. CNN also gets those birdies. They all of a sudden they know people are being arrested, so they come over there, to film it. You know how it is, right? Those birdies. Okay, so what happens is like this, right? That Rabbi Shimon runs off. At first, it says in the Gemara, right? He hid in a certain shul, in a certain synagogue. In those days, the synagogues were outside of the city, some kind of like a forest over there, some kind of a meadow, right? So he was hiding over there. But eventually, right, they got word of that he was over there. So he had to also change locations again. That's what happened, right? So he changes locations again. This time, right, he goes to a more remote location. So where does he go? He goes to a cave, right? Can you imagine? Caveman, cave dweller, Neanderthal man, right? Whatever, those guys, right? He became like that. Can you imagine? So he came to the cave, but he was lucky enough, right, to have somebody that went with him, so he didn't have to go alone. Who was that? His son, Rabbi Elazar. Right? Rabbi Elazar also went with him. So they came over there to that cave, but they had to keep everything secret, right? So over there, nobody could come to visit them over there. They had to keep the location a secret. That shul that they were hiding in, there were people who knew where they were. And that's why the word got out, you understand? So they had to change locations. This time it had to be a total secret. So what happened was, right, that nobody was bringing them food anymore. No food supplies, no nothing, right? That's it. Now they're on their own. Can you imagine? How long did they stay there, right? They stayed there for 12 years like that. Can you imagine? In one cave for 12 years with no food supplies. Nothing. Zero. Right? How did that happen, right? What occurred? This was a miracle that happened, right? They say that in the Gemara that Kadosh Baruch Hu made a special miracle for them, and they grew a carob tree over there, right? A carob tree grew, and they were eating those carobs. It was a miracle. That's what they were living on. Only carobs. They didn't have anything else, right? No hamburgers, no schnitzels, no salads, no nothing, right? No nothing like that. Just carobs. So you can see if a person can live like that, right? If Hakadosh Baruch Hu wants to help him like that, it was a total miracle. Also, they had to bury themselves in the ground. Can you imagine? Because they had no laundry, no services, right? Dry cleaning, this kind of stuff. So they had to take off their clothes, bury themselves in the ground to guard themselves. But otherwise, a person can't live like that, right? Without any showers, without any bathing, without any laundry. They were buried until their head like this, and they were standing there for 12 years like that, studying Torah. This is unbelievable. Good question, right? Do they have books? The answer is no, right? So, so the truth is, right? In those days, the oral Torah was being studied orally. They didn't study from books. It was Zepiricho, Zepiricho Torah.
So they knew everything. So what did they study?
Right. So it seems like that they by sharpening each other, you understand, and also getting information from the angels were coming there, giving them all kinds of information. You understand? Chavruta, right? More chavrutot, right? Another chavruta, heavenly chavruta. So they were coming over there and teaching them and so forth and so on. They were standing there like that for 12 years. So what happened was, right, that because of that, a person who sheds his physical self like that, it becomes totally spiritual. Right? What happens is that he can go up and shoot up spiritually very, very high. You won't even recognize him anymore. Like he comes back, say, "Who are you?" What happened to you? You look like Moses, the lawgiver. What happened to you? You used to be a regular rabbi. Now you became something else altogether. Your face is shining. The rays of light are coming out of your face. This is what happened to them. They went to a high level when they came out of there, right? After 12 years, they got permission to come out. Why? Because the decree was nullified of the Romans. They nullified the decree. Probably some new guy came in, right? New president came in, whatever, The old guy, the old Caesar was,
Kaput.
Gadaiswala, Tzavida, You understand?
They have to eat to nourish.
They were eating carobs over there. That's what they were eating, right? For 12 years. Can you imagine? Carob. So they come out, and they saw, the first thing that happened was that they saw people that were farming, like farmers, in front of the cave. Plowing, this kind of stuff, reaping, harvesting, this and that. They looked at these people, and to them, what they looked like to them? They looked like Martians. You know what I mean? What does that mean? What do I mean to tell you? They said, my God, these people are, working, doing physical labor, What a disgrace. They were in shock. Why? Because they totally were not looking angels now. They were totally in the spiritual realm. They said, look what they do. They stand there and they do physical labor. So, they got angry. They couldn't believe that people are physically, doing labor like that. They should be studying Torah all day, like they were.
Before they went to the cave,
yeah.
People were still laboring.
Yeah, they were not on that level. You understand? Their level went so high, they couldn't tolerate such a thing like that anymore. Can you imagine? So what happened was, right, that they saw one guy doing like that, farming. So what do? They killed him, They put an evil eye on him. Sawida, Allah. Like that. Can you imagine? They saw another one, same thing they do him, right? They killed two people like that. They saw them, Gamtaras, Gasaras. So once HaKadosh Baruch Hu saw this, right, that they were like killing people like this, they told, they announced to them. They said, you know what? They said, go back into the cave. Go back, because you're going to destroy my world like this, what's going to be with you guys? You're going to come out like this, destroy my world, kill my people, kill my children, you know? So Kadosh Baruch Hu told them to go back. So they went back again, and they stayed there even longer. Can you imagine? So it was like two things, two, right, exactly, right. So Rabbi Shimon, right, once he eventually came out, after all those 2 stays that he had there, his body was full of scabs, and wounds because, he was standing on the ground. So he was totally scabbed and wounded.
Second time he also went into the ground?
Yeah, they had to stay in the ground. There was no choice. There was no other way to do it.
Never coming out.
They came out after the second time,
No,
right?
I'm talking about.
Yeah, they were there all the time. Yeah, no bathing, no laundry, no nothing. Can you imagine? This is something unbelievable. So they came out in the end, right? His whole body was scratched and scabbed. So he comes out and he comes to visit his father-in-law, right? Who was his father-in-law? His name was Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair, also a big rabbi, big chacham. Right? So he saw him. He looks at him and says, "Oh my God!" He says, "I'm in shock. What happened to you? You look like your body's like you've been eaten alive." So he says, "Woe to me that I see you like this, my son-in-law. Woe to me. What was to me? Oi." So Rishimon, you know what he answered him? He said, "If you wouldn't see me this way, woe to me it would be. I will be woe." Why is that? Because they say, right, that when he went into the cave the first time, he was not the greatest scholar of the generation. There were rabbis who were bigger than him, more knowledgeable than him. But once they came out, understand, they were now way, way, way beyond everybody else. They were like totally, they right, exactly, right. The knowledge was so great, right, that nobody could compare to them. Nobody could to. So the holiday of Lag BaOmer is very connected to this whole idea. You understand? What happened was that Rabbi Shimon, because of the great level that he got to, what happened was that there were revealed to him many secrets in Kabbalah, secret information in the Kabbalah, which in those times nobody knew those secrets. So what happened was that he was able to get all that secret information. As we said, right, he was being fed by the angels and all kinds of things going on there. Understand? So Kadosh Baruch Hu gave him a gift like that. Because
Where is this holiday implemented? In which book?
Where is it brought down?
Yeah.
It's brought down in like the books which are 500 years ago and less.
Uh-huh.
You understand? It became a big custom.
So we're celebrating his birth?
So I'll explain to you, right, how that works exactly, right? Is it birth? Is it death? What are we celebrating exactly, right? What's the idea? The truth is, right, that he wasn't born on that day, Rabbi Shimon. But this, according to several books, he died on that day. This was his death anniversary, right? He died on Lag BaOmer, Rabbi Shimon. There are also others, like the Chida, and right, others who say that he actually did not die on that day. There's a machloket, there's a dispute about that. But it seems like there is some kind of a credence, right, credible story that he died on that day, whatever. But there's also other right versions of what happened there. They say there are also others who bring down that it wasn't the day that he died; it was the day that he was given as a rabbinical license. He was right. He was ordained as a rabbi that day. That's what they say, right? There's another version of that. Some say he was ordained that day as a rabbi. And that's the reason why we make a holiday out of it, because of this ordination that he got, right? He got to the level that he got and the secrets that he got, right? Those Kabbalah that he had. That some say like that. There's also a third version of right, brought down of the special character of Lag BaOmer. They say that this was the day that Rabbi Akiva started to teach his new students, the new ones that we found, right? As we said, because all the old ones died. So this was the day they started to teach the new batch of students. There's three different opinions. They could all be true, by the way. It could be they're all true. They don't really contradict each other. You understand? So it could be that they're all true. Nevertheless, the point is, right, that Rabbi Shimon on this day represents the wisdom of Rabbi Shimon, right? That he got the special wisdom that he was bestowed to retrieve all the secrets that were lost to the Jewish people. So the question is like this, right? a question is asked regarding this. Because the truth is, right, that the Chazal tell us, once the Torah was received on Har Sinai, there is nothing new. There's no more new Torah, right? New Testament, no Testament, nothing. There's nothing new anymore, right? Whatever there is, that's all there is. So, if that's really the truth, how did Rabbi Shimon now get new information that we didn't have before? Good question. Where did this come from? What came from the sky? What is his business, right? So what's the answer to that question? The answer is actually a very important answer, right? That a person has to understand in order to understand the nature of the Torah. Right? What happened was that, as we said, all this Torah was received orally. Zipir Torah, So because of that, the Kabbalah is all oral, nothing written down there, right? And therefore it had to be transmitted from generation to generation. The great rabbis of the generation would transmit one to the other. This Kabbalah, Kabbalah, by the way, means receiving, right? It's a tradition that was handed on from generation to generation. So what happens is, right, that Rabbi Shimon, how did he get new information? What happened over there? So the truth is, right, that all the information that Rabbi Shimon had was already given on Har Sinai. So then what happened? Right? It got lost because what happened was that as the generations went along, some of the secrets got lost. It wasn't transmitted 100%. There were things which are omitted because of the great diligence that it requires, right? To take everything word by word, verbatim, that you shouldn't lose one bit of information. This is a very, very difficult thing. A person needs a lot of help from heavenly assistance. They should be on that level, So what happened was that as the generations were going along, the levels started to decrease. And therefore the transmission started to get weaker, What's the example, by the way? The famous example is like this, right? We find in the Zohar Kadosh a story about this issue, exactly what we're talking about. And what happened was, right, that, as we said, Rabbi Shimon was a Talmid of Rabbi Akiva, right? Who was the rabbi of Rabbi Akiva? Rabbi Eliezer Gadol, right? Who was a great rabbi of his generation, Rabbi Eliezer. And his rabbi was Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. This is the chain of command, right? Transmission that we had in the oral Torah. As it's brought down in the Rambam, we see, right, we find it in these places. So what happened was that Rabbi Eliezer, right, who was a very, very great rabbi, he was the rabbi of Rabbi Akiva. He himself knew everything. There was nothing that he was missing. He had a perfect transmission. He had a perfect transmission of Torah. So what happened was, right, that Rabbi Eliezer learned everything, and he didn't forget nothing. But unfortunately, what happened was, right, in that generation, as we find in the Gemara Bava Metzia, that there was a big dispute between Rabbi Eliezer and the other rabbis of the generation. There was a big machloket that occurred between them, and it caused a rift in this whole transmission. What does that mean? Right, that there was a certain case where the rabbis were upset at Rabbi Eliezer because Rabbi Eliezer refused to waive his opinion against their opinion, even though they were the majority. So therefore, right, Rabbi Eliezer told them, he said, listen, with all due respect to your majority, you are the majority. But he says, I'm right. So he refused to go like the majority, which is not allowed, by the way, according to the Torah. This is considered to be something very, very problematic. So what did they do? Once the rabbis saw this, that he refused to accede, right, to their opinion. So what did they do? They excommunicated him. Yeah, Rabbi Eliezer. They said, listen, okay, you're the big honcho. We know that, right? You're bigger than all of us. Fine. But you have to go by the rules, We have rules. So if you don't go by the rules, it's not going to be like that. We're gonna take care of you, right? We're gonna punish you. They punished him, excommunicated him. They say, by the way, that day when they excommunicated him, he got upset. You can imagine how upset he was. Right? They say, right, that all kinds of disasters happened in the world. Parts of the world that was destroyed. The food supply was destroyed. Why? Because they upset him. They upset great Talmid Chacham like that. So they say, right, that the world was almost destroyed that day because of what happened. Because of the feelings, bad feelings they had for him, and they caused them suffering like that. So therefore, right, it caused a great deal of damage to the world. Nevertheless, what happened was, right, once Rabbi Eliezer was excommunicated, what happened was that at that point, the rabbis were not coming to study with him anymore. He was alone in his house, sitting alone, sitting at home. Nobody coming to him. a loner. You know? That's the idea. So what happens is, right, that the day,
I'm sorry, Rabbi. This is just hilarious.
the day before he dies, on his deathbed, Rabbi Eliezer, right, comes, and all the rabbis now come. They hear that he's about to die, so they all come to visit him. You know, the last day before he goes. Until that day, they weren't with him for a long time, for many years. So what happened was, right, that they came, and they're all sitting there in front of him, and Rabbi Akiva is also there. So Rabbi Eliezer has a great deal of anger for these rabbis, you know, great deal of resentment for them. So he looks at them, you know, gives them that eye, you know, gives them. He says, "I want to ask you a question." Tells him, "Why didn't you come to learn Torah with me for all these years, to learn Torah from me? Don't you know that I'm the only one who knows this Torah? There's nobody else. How could you give up on that? Right? How could you waive this privilege to learn the Torah from me? Nobody else knows this Torah besides me. And all these years, you don't come to learn from me?" This is the question that he asked them. So you know what happened? All of them are like scared to answer. You know, they're like totally in shock. None of them says one word to answer him. They're all just sitting there, like, you know, like looking at the ceiling. You know, yeah. Okay. They're too afraid to answer him. So he looks then specifically at Rabbi Akiva, you know, who was a student, disciple. You know, he looks at Rabbi Akiva, tells him, he says, "Rabbi Akiva," he tells him, "Why did you come to study with me all these years?" So Rabbi Akiva answers him. You know what he tells him? Tells him like one of these, you know, wise Alex, you know, answers. He says, "Oh," says, "Rabbi, I'm sorry." He says, "I was too busy with my talmidim, with my students. I was teaching them. You know, I didn't have time to come to you." So Rabbi Eliezer looks at Rabbi Akiva, very angry. That is this answer, wise Alex answer, you know, wise guy. And he curses him, you know, gave him a curse. He says, "I'm sure this one's going to die a very, very, very strange death, you know, very evil death he's going to die. Not a normal death. I have no doubt about it." So what happens is, right, that's exactly what happened to Rabbi Akiva. What happened? He died a very strange death, exactly, right? He cursed him. They say that whatever Chacham says, it comes true. Whether he blesses you or curses you, everything comes true.
That's incredible. Yeah. So why don't you bless us and get it over with?
So, regarding, by the way, what you're asking about, the question is, why did he curse them? You know, it's a good question. For what to curse? He has no right to curse, huh? So really he has no right to curse? You're going to teach him what he has the right to do? A great person like that?
I'm not going to teach him, but it's illogical for the Talmid Chacham, for the person that really has to show us morality.
Yeah. So what's the answer to that question? You know what the answer is? I get the question. The answer is, it wasn't something personal over here. It wasn't a personal issue. What he was upset about, what was he upset about? He was upset about the fact that all this Torah that he had
was wasted.
Exactly. It wasn't going to get transmitted. That means that Torah is lost forever.
There was a solution for it. Well, he knew that he was dying. To write everything down and pass it down.
I wish, right? I wish.
Why did he do it?
I'll explain to you. Good question. So, stories like this over time. As we said, right, that this material, the oral Torah, is too vast to write down. Nobody can write down the whole thing. No such a thing like that. It's so vast, a person has to hear it orally and transmit it, and it has to be transmitted very accurately. No way to write down the whole oral Torah. No such a thing like that. Even though we've been writing it already for the last 2,000 years, we still can't write the whole thing. Can you imagine?
I'm not going to debate you. Okay?
No way to say that.
I'm not going to debate you.
But also there's another thing, which is what? In those times, it wasn't even allowed to write the oral Torah. Understand? You're not allowed to write the oral Torah. Not allowed to write it. The person who writes the oral Torah is just doing a sin. So what happened was,
you have a choice of wasting the whole thing, erasing it, everything, or keeping it as.
So you know what the problem is? That when you don't transmit the Torah from one generation to another, this is the destruction of the world. You're destroying the world. This is why he cursed Rabbi Akiva. He told them, you are responsible for the destruction of the world. You're destroying the world. You destroyed the world. We're not coming to me. Right. Good question. Right. This is actually a very good question.
So he got upset because he gave
Why?
wise answer.
Why did he? So what about being quiet? Is it better to be quiet? Does that say nothing?
Because you didn't speak up, you didn't desecrate the rabbi.
So you know what the answer is? You know what the answer is, Jimmy?
Yes, sir.
The reason is because Rabbi Akiva was more responsible than the others regarding this. You know why? Because Rabbi Akiva was a great genius. So he was the one who was able to actually, to learn all that stuff. He had that great mind that was able to, to absorb all that. Not everybody can absorb that, right? When it comes to Talmud and Halacha, any Jew can learn Talmud and Halacha, even though it's hard. But you get used to it, like everything else. You study for a few years and you become proficient. It becomes like, second nature already. When it comes to Kabbalah, this is something not everybody can grasp. It takes a very special mind to grasp Kabbalah, a very special soul. So the reason why he cursed Rabbi Akiva more than the others is because, right, exactly, you're the one who was responsible for this. And also he was a student, you should have been studying with me. So what happened was that because the Torah got lost, that day, by the way, Rabbi Akiva was pretty in shock when Rabbi Eliezer said this to him. Cursed him like this, So he told him, Rabbi, I apologize. He says, you know what? Maybe we can make it up. Somehow. So let's make it up, right? So what was it? What was the makeup? He told him, listen, teach me now. It's not too late. Let's go. Let's start learning now. Teach me everything now. Whatever we can get, we get. So they say Rabbi Eliezer agreed. He told him, okay, fine. So he started to teach him. But unfortunately, they only had one day. You can't cover everything in one day. He was dying that day. Understand?
Why can't he accept his life? There were all the time.
Right? When the time comes to go, time's to go. That's it. That's the way it is. So what happened was that he started to teach him. He taught him great secrets, very big Kabbalah. And also he taught him halachot they didn't know also. Halachot even. Can you imagine? Have a seat, guys. Everybody's invited. He taught him also halachot. They didn't know. He taught them great secrets of Shir Hashirim, one of the great books, of the holy books. But unfortunately, he wasn't able to finish everything. You can't do everything in one day. So therefore, right, he passed away, and that was the end of it. That's the end. You understand?
I don't understand.
So, yeah.
Rabbis, people of such high level,
Yeah.
Were free to curse each other like this to death and get away with it? I mean,
it's a whole discussion in itself. We have to give lecture on that, because it's really actually very.
I told him I'm not going to say him.
Yeah. We have to give a lecture on that too. It's a very deep subject. This whole thing, right?
Is it okay to ask this?
Why not?
Yeah. It sounds pretty sick. I mean,
it is sick.
It's like.
Listen, the rabbis should teach us behavior and morality. What is this book, Rabbi, again?
Pirkeh Avot,
right? They should teach us Pirkeh Avot. And they're cursing each other? What kind of example is
right, but you have to know one thing, Jimmy, that they're coming to teach us, we're not coming to teach them. So let's keep the priorities. You have to know who's the rabbi and who's the student. That's the idea.
Who is
You have to know
rabbi?
That's
He
not
has to
arguable.
teach us?
That's the idea.
Let me ask
We have to
you
learn
this.
from them. Now we have to teach them.
No, I'm not challenging what happened in these things. Usually there was no other way to punish one another or punish certain people that stepped out of line without killing. I just, because remember one seminar we had, you said that the implementation of the death penalty was actually only exercised once in the whole Torah history.
No, that's not exactly what I said. What I said was that there's a Gemara that says if you do it more than once in 7 years or whatever, so it's considered to be like too much,
Right.
That's what I said.
And yet these people,
Yeah, there was, there was
a lot of,
they knew what they were doing. Believe me.
uh-huh.
Don't try to judge them.
No, I'm not judging them.
Don't judge the masters.
I'm not judging them. I'm not judging anybody. I'm surprised that God would sit and watch this. Because.
Well, he doesn't kill people. What about the people that he kills? Same thing. Yeah. People die every day, right?
Well,
There's tsunamis. There's disasters. Who brought that? God brought that. Who brought it? Came from the sky. It's not a coincidence.
Now this sounds like Pat Robertson on the 700. And know, he gets a lot of heat for this.
Right.
Those
Yeah.
guys, you know, they also believe in this, that the
Right.
tsunamis and this are punishment from God. And, you know, this is a tough pill to swallow. I mean,
Yes.
So that's what we believe.
You know, I'll tell you something, Rabbi. You have to. There's one thing I have to tell you regarding these things.
you know,
That a person has to humble himself,
absolutely.
you know, and not try to judge the Torah, because the Torah is above you. You know, don't try to judge it.
We're not judging.
Accept it for what it is, and try to understand. You know, try to understand it. Don't try to judge, because the wisdom of the Torah is above us. It's the wisdom of God.
We are not judging the Torah at all. We are not contradicting the Torah.
This is the Torah. That's what we're talking about. This is all Torah. You know. That's the idea. Okay, anyway, getting to what we said. So because of all these reasons, Rabbi Shimon was the zechut. He had the zechut to bring back the secrets that were lost, and also, right, he retrieved basically not only those secrets that we're talking about here, he retrieved all the secrets that were lost on the Har Sinai, on Mount Sinai. This is what happened to Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Shimon had a very big zechut, and because of that, this holiday, right, Lag BaOmer, which is actually a death anniversary according to some opinions, right, now becomes a holiday. They say, by the way, how particular are we about this? If you want to know, right? That a person should not. Usually, when it comes to a death anniversary, it's a day of mourning. You know, some people fast on those days. Their parents died, you know, whatever things like they fast. They do tanit. Not everybody does that, but some people do. So it's a day of mourning. So what are you celebrating for? They say, by the way, regarding this, there's a story brought down in the books that one day there was one guy who decided to be a wise guy. You know. So he goes to, he was a rabbi himself. Rabbi, you know. So he goes to the cave of Rabbi Shimon, where he was buried. Whereas this is in Meron, right? We know where it is today. We go over there also. So he goes over there to the cave, and he goes to the cave of Rabbi Shimon, and which day? On Lag BaOmer, you know, which is coming up on Thursday, right? Wednesday night, tomorrow night. So he goes over there and starts to, you know, go over there to the cave. He starts crying. He says, Rabbi Shimon, he says, you died on this day, you know. Starts to cry. Gets emotional, whatever. You know. So what happened was, right, that that night, when he did this trick, he pulled off this wise Alec, routine, whatever. So that night, there was a rabbi who was living in that area, and came to him in a dream, right? A dream came to him. So came Rabbi Shimon in a dream that night to that rabbi, and he says, who is this man that came to me, you know, on the day of my happiness, of my joy, and crying in front of my grave? That's what he tells. Who is this man? So he says, you know what's going to be with him, he says. Because he cried on my happy day, his mother is going to die tomorrow. That's what he says. Can you imagine? That's exactly what happened. His mother died. You know? So you can see from there, Rabbi, that even though generally, right, it's a general rule, we're not allowed to be happy on a day of Yortzeit, of a death anniversary. But when it comes to this day, we have to be happy. Rabbi Shimon doesn't want us to be upset, because it's a holiday. Why? Because those secrets that were revealed are considered to be very, very great. They say, by the way, in the Zohar Kadosh, says the Zohar Kadosh, that generation, Rabbi Shimon, was such a great generation, a high level generation, that it won't be a generation like that until Mashiach comes. It was a very, very high level generation. You know, nobody can compare to that generation. Even though we had also after that generations, they were also on a high level. Like for instance, right, we had the generation of the Arizal, which was 500 years ago. In Tzfat, they came over there in Eretz Israel. Great rabbis assembled over there, and the Arizal was also a great Kabbalist. You know,
I just want to say that this is like the most disrespectful thing that I've ever seen. You know, their conversation couldn't be any more important than what's learning of the Bible. And if they really want to bullshit, whatever it is they're talking about, they could go in there. We should go in there.
Right. So
Whatever.
Rabbi,
Next time we'll go.
so what happened?
But this is our place, you know what I'm saying?
This is also important. We should go there. Rabbi, next time we'll go there.
No problem.
I was part of it.
So Rabbi, as we said, right, that even though the Arizal 500 years ago was a great Mekubal, and he's the father of the modern Kabbalah that we learn today. The transmission that he gave us is what we learn to study today. But nevertheless, they say, right, but when it comes to comparing them to the Tanaim, Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Eliezer, his Kabbalah is not a drop in the bucket of what those people had. Nothing compared to them.
And yet he has a holiday.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
Right.
The Arizal doesn't have that holiday, you understand? But the Rabbi Shimon was much greater than the Arizal. Can I compare? You understand? Can I compare? Yeah, exactly. Right. That's the idea. So therefore, right, a person has to know, right, that the level that they were on, those rabbis in that generation, is something else altogether. We don't have such a level like that.
Is this the only rabbi from the historical data that we actually have a holiday for?
What for his death? Yeah, it's the only. That's no such a thing like that. You make a holiday for death anniversary. Your side.
Well,
no such a thing like that. This is the only one. Because it's a sad day, your side.
So it's for the death, or just the fact that this man exists?
As we said, right, we brought down 3 different reasons. Because those 3 reasons are the reasons why we celebrate this day as a holiday. So therefore, Rabotai, this day is considered to be a very, very great day.
So what do we do tomorrow?
What do we do? It's a good question, right? Good question.
Well, they're having a party for this?
That's what they're discussing.
For this guy?
For this guy, not for this guy, for the holiday.
Are you serious, Jimmy, or are you screwing?
I'm serious.
I never know when you're serious.
Rabbi, please interpret.
One day in yeshiva, you told me that when you go home, I should take the tefillin with me and put it on at night. And I actually did it.
I'm sorry.
I came in the morning, I said, Jimmy, I want you to know, I did the tefillin at night. And you started cracking up. Everybody started laughing at me over there. You said, I was kidding. I didn't know that you were actually going to take it seriously.
You didn't put on tefillin in the morning. Why would you put on? No, tomorrow we have starts the same thing. Barbecue, Shabbos cookie, the whole night. I'm sick.
Right. So the truth is, right, it's a nice mitzvah to do like something like that, to make a party like that.
I didn't know that, man. I didn't.
But nevertheless, right, that even though we didn't meet him ourselves,
Did he know you?
but they say, right, that this day,
Don't be seriously now. He said because we didn't meet him ourselves.
this day, by the way, is the day that recurs every year, that the secrets of the Torah, right, the revelation of the secrets, it's profusive to that,
You know what? I've been waiting for Shabbos food for 3 months. So since I'm going to get to taste something, I guess I'll have to come to this.
Okay, don't miss it. Come.
Are you going to be here, Rabbi?
We'll try. No promise, very better.
You come.
Yeah.
If you come, it'll be better. We'll have more fun with you.
We're going to have fun. We're going to have people here. Excuse me first. Charlie, quale non lo sa che d'accordo. Don't you smell. 8:30, quarter to 9. That's it.
If it's going to be after the prayers, it's going to be like 9 o'clock, because 8:30 is too early.
Late to eat.
Right. 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock. Yeah. 9 o'clock is good. 9 o'clock is realistic.
Okay.
Can you
Okay.
explain to me one thing?
Yes.
What is the Kabbalah? That's the hidden secrets of Torah.
Right. So yes, the Kabbalah. Right. This is the final frontier. The inner Torah.
I think Madonna can answer that question.
Right. The inner Torah, which is the secrets of the Torah, and Rabbi Shimon, right, was able to reveal these things. So this is considered to be a very, very great thing. And as we said, the Arizal, even though he was very great, doesn't compare to that generation. It's a totally different thing altogether. One of the customs of Lag BaOmer, right? The people who live in Eretz Israel, many of them, by the way, there's 500,000 people who go to the gravesite of Rabbi Shimon. Can you imagine? At least 500,000 people go there. It's a very big event. They have music over there. They have vendors, all kinds of stuff. People are singing, dancing, But they go into the grave also, like the cave where he's buried, to pray over there, because they say, right, that the neshama of the deceased is more there on your side than any other day. So therefore, this is like the most, it's conducive to getting your prayers answered. Yeah.
Again, about the intervention of God. I know personally people that have passed away or died, either early or whatever. Some people tragically, some people from, illnesses, they were angels compared to me. I mean, I know that for sure. They were much better people.
Yeah.
With much less sin.
Yes.
And, I knew some of these people that left us early. You expect me to believe that when a plane falls and hundreds of people die, that God deemed it because these people deserved it? I mean, it's
So what do you think? It's an accident? You expect me to believe that?
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I always thought that the Bible taught that God doesn't intervene. Things happen to.
You got the wrong religion. You're talking about the other side. Those other guys.
And then in the next world, you're judged as to how you live.
No, this is very wrong. This is very, very, very mistaken. This is heretical information. Heresy. For sure, right? This is like from the heretical books, this kind of stuff,
No, I thought it was from our books.
No, it's not our books. The other guys, the other side.
So 100 million people, for instance, I'm picking one historical event, and there's been so many over the centuries, During World War II, 100 million people lost their lives, not just 6 million Jews. All of them deserve to perish?
But what do you think? They didn't deserve it? There's no judge, right? There's no judge in the world?
I don't know.
What do you think? It's just a free-for-all? Coincidence?
So all of them were terrible people? I mean...
What do you expect? I mean, what do you think? I mean,
I don't know. I know some horrible people these days.
There's two choices when you ask a question like that. There's two choices. You know what the choices are? One is to say that those people didn't deserve it. They're all innocent. It just happened as a coincidence, right? But then you're insulting God. You're saying that there's no God in the world. There's no judge.
I'm not insulting God.
That's an insult to him.
God created Hitler.
So what does that mean?
He created a wicked
You're still responsible for your deeds.
He created Stalin.
So you got to pay for that.
And he created him with free will.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, and he killed people.
Right. That's the idea.
You know what I'm saying? It wasn't God that killed people. He killed them.
Yeah, but it was with a sanction. Obviously, right? Who's the one who's behind it? Who's running the show?
How could he be behind free will? If I'm created by free will, God is letting me do good or evil.
Right.
It's my choice.
But the free will that you do is only up to a certain point until God wants it. He won't let you do everything you want. You understand? Hitler, he wanted to also kill the Georgian Jews, but he didn't get there. He couldn't get there.
Listen, there were many Hitlers.
He also wanted to kill. But he was looking to go there. He tried to get there. He couldn't get in. Also, he wanted to kill the Israeli Jews. Also, in Jerusalem, he couldn't get there.
He wanted to kill all the Jews.
Right, but what I'm saying is he had his eyes set. He had his eyes set on that already. He was battling for that.
Listen,
he had plans for that. You understand?
Others besides Jews also.
That's not the issue. That's not the issue.
Yeah,
don't try to hide behind the. He had a plan to kill all the Jews. That was his plan.
I understand.
So the fact that he was killing other people has nothing to do with that.
Yeah, I understand.
So don't try to dilute.
You're telling me the Georgians were. He couldn't get to Georgia.
He couldn't get to the Georgian Jews. Yeah, he couldn't get to them.
More righteous than the other Jews.
We had some kind of merit, it seems, right? That's what it is. Yeah.
He never got to Georgia.
By the way, what's the merit? Yeah, but he was looking for the Georgian Jews.
He was, but Hashem didn't let him go to Georgia.
Right. That's it.
We had more merit.
Yeah, we had more merit. By the way, what's the merit? You want to know what's the merit of the Georgian Jews? You want to know, by the way, the merit of the Georgian Jews? Not because we were more religious than everybody else or more devout, because in that generation we were not so much.
We were out of reach.
Right, because the communists, they messed us up.
We were out of reach.
But the Georgians have a different merit. You know what it is? Brotherly love. They love each other. There's a tight bond. But when it comes to the other communities, there was always strife. In those communities. The Georgian Jews were brotherly people.
Except when we go to Leonard.
United. I'm not talking about what happens today. The Jews that were in Georgia, they were a united community. Brotherly love.
Maybe.
And HaKadosh Baruch Hu considers that more important than everything else.
So what, the European Jews didn't have brotherly love?
There was a lot of strife over there. Machloket. In the European community, there was always machloket over there. Hasidim, Litaim, there's history. Look at history and you'll see.
Listen, I'm not saying that.
Amongst the Georgian Jews, there was never like two camps, fighting with each other.
Because
like that.
we didn't know better. We had one rabbi.
We had one rabbi. That's it. We were simple people. This is the merit of the Georgian Jews. You should know. This is the merit.
And it's funny because when you ask the Europeans, the Georgians were always rich, and over there in Moscow, they had nothing to eat. And they were jealous of us, You know the joke where Georgian's son goes to a father and asks him, Mama, And the father goes, the money's over there, but don't take this much, take this much. Because we spoil our children
Right.
and so forth.
Just to go over, just to make it up, just to go over the customs of this day, right? The holiday
Yes.
of Lag BaOmer. What's good to do and what's not good to do on this day, right? So let's try to, just cover the basic idea, right? We got into the theory. Now we did the theory. Now we have to do the practical.
As long as I'm sitting in front of Shalva's food tomorrow, that's allowed. That's good enough for me.
You're a real Georgian. What can I tell you? True Georgian.
Listen, the guy didn't answer my texts.
Okay.
So
Okay.
tomorrow he has no choice. He has to
Okay.
go for me.
It's a good thing that liking to eat. It's a good thing that liking to eat is not a crime. Otherwise, we'd be in big trouble.
Right.
Judges, it's not a trust.
You guys don't get it.
Forget it.
You guys just never pay attention to the comedy aspect of things. I
Right.
wish I could record this because you're preaching the Torah, and he's talking to somebody on a cell phone.
What do you care about that?
On the speaker
Yeah.
about where the water in the mikvah is coming.
That's also important, by the way. He's doing his job. That's his job.
For the 3 months, they
Yeah.
cannot. Okay.
It's a very important job what he's doing.
I understand, but it's hilarious.
This is a big mitzvah what he's doing, by the way. You should know. Really, seriously. He consulted with me also about this issue.
I understand.
We working together on that. That's the way
And
it
then
is.
if there are too many opinions. you'll never
No, that's
know.
something else. We're not talking about that. We're not talking about opinions. There's a practical problem,
And what about the
No,
hypocrisy of
yeah.
it? I can't hear you because of them, and you raise your voice a little bit because you
Okay.
emphasize something from the Torah, and he goes, ooh.
You know what it is, David? It's all tests to see if we're going to behave, not fight with each other, Not get angry, not to lose our temper. We have to just stay cool, no matter what happens,
Well, I
No,
don't
this
want
is-
the plane to crash next time.
Because we could have now started a big we could have started a big ruckus now, right? We could have started a big ruckus, Why are you? Would that bring something good?
Solution. Next time we're going there.
Yeah, that's it,
That's it.
No, I just feel that if it was just a couple of them, they could sit there on a nice.
We call that, we call that graceful retreat. Gracefully retreat. That's it. Go out to leave, like you said.
We always do it.
Okay, anyway, we're time. Getting to the customs, right, of Lag BaOmer. So, because as we said, right, this day is really, right, in honor of Rabbi Shimon, right? That's the bottom line. So therefore, what we do is, right, the custom amongst many Jews is to study the works, the statements of Rabbi Shimon, which are scattered all over, the Talmud and the Zohar Kadosh, everywhere, Rabbi Shimon, it's everywhere. So we gather all up that information and we study his works to honor him, to honor his Torah. And that's one of the things that people do. There's also a custom to make a bonfire, right? And this is by the way, the making a barbecue is like similar to that. What does that mean? That we make a fire, right, which symbolizes the fire of the Torah. You know why? Because they say, right, that when a big rabbi or two big rabbis get together, this is what happened, by the way, this episode. I told you that Rabbi Eliezer taught that Kabbalah to Rabbi Akiva that day. What happened was the big fire came down from the heavens and covered them. Nobody should be able to get in there. Because once they start learning the secrets of the Torah, it's so holy, a fire comes down, and starts to surround it like that. It's something, unbelievable. So in honor of these fires, right, the fire of the Torah, which comes down for people who are learning the secrets of the Torah like that, we find many episodes like that in the Talmud. Fire came down here, fire came down there. Every time they used to learn these secrets, the fire would come down, and shield them, protect them. This is very holy stuff, This is like the holiest things that we have. So because of that, we have also a custom to bonfire. The biggest bonfire that they do, by the way, you know where it is? By his grave, in Meron, over there, right? They make big bonfires, they dance, they sing, they do music, right? So therefore, right, even though the truth is that we're keeping now customs of mourning because of the students of Rabbi Akiva that died, but nevertheless on Lag BaOmer, since it's a holiday, it's a Hag, we don't do any customs of mourning. So therefore, we do parties, we eat, we make, sing, dance, this, everything, right? No more mourning on Lag BaOmer. And by the way, because of this issue of Lag BaOmer, the truth is, right, according to Sfardim, the Sephardi custom is that the people who are not shaving, right, and not getting haircuts during this time, because it's not allowed to, when are we allowed to do it? On Lag BaOmer, the day after Lag BaOmer. According to Sephardi custom, the day after. Why is that? Because that's the time that they stopped dying, right? At that time, they stopped dying. The students of Rabbi Akiva at Lag BaOmer, Lamed Daled, they stopped dying, according to one opinion. There's also another opinion is that they stopped dying on Lag BaOmer. So the Ashkenazim, going according to that opinion, they shave and get a haircut on Lag BaOmer itself. We Sfaradim, we wait till the next day, Lag BaOmer, because our custom is like that. There's two different opinions over there. Everything is good. Everything is nice. But the truth is, right, if a person cannot, for some reason, even if he's Sephardi, right, he cannot do a haircut on Friday, so he can do also, right, a Thursday night. And even if he can't do that, let's say, right, he can also, right, if it's a big emergency, he can do also on Lag BaOmer itself, like the Ashkenazim do. Because there's also what to rely on regarding that as well. Why is that? Because since Lag BaOmer now is a holiday, right, so therefore we don't really do morning. And even Maran, right, Maran Bet Yosef, who said that we should do on Lag BaOmer the next day, nevertheless, he didn't celebrate Lag BaOmer as a holiday, because we don't find that he brings that down. So therefore, right, we should now, since it's a holiday, therefore a person is allowed to also, right, in the case of difficulty where he wasn't able to do on Lag BaOmer the next day on Friday, so he can also get a haircut on Thursday as well, right? Same applies, by the way, also to making weddings, because by the Sephardim, the custom is not to make weddings on Lag BaOmer, all right, and also until Lag BaOmer, all those days after Pesach. But if it's an emergency situation, and he cannot do on after, so he can also do on Lag BaOmer itself. It's a holiday, so therefore, right, we don't have any problems with that. In a case where there's no choice.
So basically, after Lag BaOmer, everything is permitted.
Right, pretty much that's the idea. Yeah.
But how come some of the Orthodox they keep it until Shavuot?
Right. So this opinion, what you're talking about, okay, this is a third opinion. The truth is, right? That's a third opinion. That opinion is according to Kabbalah. According to the Kabbalah, these days that we're doing, not shaving and doing these kinds of things, it's not because of the morning of Surut Rabbi Akiva, because there's a certain quality, at this time, that it's not conducive to shaving. When you shave, it breaks the quality of this time. It causes a certain problem. You know what the problem is? Basically, the problem is like this, right? These days, the days of din, days of judgment. So there's days that when you get a haircut, it makes the judgment worse, more strong, more powerful, because the hair has to do with judgment, So therefore, that's why we refrain. So the big Kabbalah guys, they refrain all the way until Shavuot, But there's a very few people like that.
Because I remember in Yeshiva, the rabbis, they did not shave till Shavuot.
Right, but the truth is, there's also a fourth custom.
Some
right, so there's also a fourth custom. Right? That's probably what you're talking about, which is what? That they start, some Ashkenazim, they don't start after Pesach like we do. They start after Rosh Chodesh Iyar, right? And they go until Shavuot. That's a different custom. So you're probably talking about that, So that's actually like 4 different customs going on over there, For like the different. That's it, right? For you, that's what it is. That's the way it is. That's the idea, So once Lad BaOmer comes, right? That's it. We're done. Lad, right? The next day. Right, you're allowed to shave the next day already, as we said, right?
What's the holiday called?
Lag BaOmer is Thursday, right? Yes.
L-A-G.
Right. Lamed Gimel, Lamed Lag. That's what we call Lag. 33. That's 33. But the Sephardim, as we said, they shave the next day. But if it wasn't possible, you can also do it the day before as well, right? No problem. No big deal, right? No, we can definitely get by with that. Let's do something in Pirkeh Avot, and we'll finish it off, right? I want to say something nice over here. So I guess we'll do something which is in the honor of Rabbi Shimon, right? Since we're honoring Rabbi Shimon now, right? Lag BaOmer.
Sure.
So Rabbi Shimon brings down. This is in the third parak of Pirkei Avot. Says Rabbi Shimon. שלושה שאכלו על שולחן אחד ולא אמרו עליו דברי תורה, כאילו אכלו מזבחי מתים. Right? This actually has to do with tomorrow, right? We're talking about the barbecue, right? So we're talking about that. What does Rabbi Shimon say? Rabbi Shimon says that if 3 people who were sitting, 3 Jews, right, sat, and they had a meal together, they went out, to that new restaurant, whatever, right, that you talked about. They sat over there, had nice hamburgers, schnitzel, this and that. But they run off. This one runs here, runs there. No divrei Torah. Nobody's saying divrei Torah. So it says Rabbi Shimon, if you do like that, 3 people who sit down and eat and no divrei Torah, it's like they offered a sacrifice to an idolatry, idols. That's what it is, right? So what does that mean? That when a person eats,
you're not going to carry a rabbi all the time.
You're not a rabbi. Open up something, and say something, that everybody knows something, There's no Jew who doesn't have anything up his sleeve, divrei Torah up his sleeve. Yeah, it's true. It's true, Even Soso can say something, Soso, Shalom. He knows something. Everybody knows something, That's the way it is. You don't know, you for sure you know. That's it. That's the idea. David doesn't know, he knows. He knows. Believe me, everybody knows. Okay, so, right.
He didn't own this for 40 years, but I just told him today.
What's the reason, by the way, Rotai? If you really want to know, Why is this that Zohar Kadosh, by the way, it clarifies this even more, right? It takes it even further. It says Zohar Kadosh that when a person eats a meal, seudah, it doesn't say Divrei Torah, all the nourishment that he got goes to Satan. Satan Shemidisu. That's what happens. It doesn't say Divrei Torah over there. Why is it so bad? To eat a meal and not say Divrei Torah. So it seems to me, just my own idea, my personal idea, that eating is a very physical thing. It's very it's mundane. It's very physical. It brings you down to the earth. It's an earthly kind of event. You eat, you feel good. It's like a kind of animalistic kind of thing. Whatever. So the truth is, right, that a Jew is not supposed to be that way. He's not supposed to be so animalistic, so earthly. So therefore, in order to counteract the earthly quality of eating, which is very, beastly, kind of thing, very, very, very gashmiut. That's what we call it, right, in Hebrew, right? Very animalistic. So in order to counteract that, we have to have the Divrei Torah to lift it up. In order that we should lift up that, because you know how it is, right? He's taken me a few times to lunch, dinner, this, that, whatever. We sit there, we slobber, orders a nice, beautiful, portion. Oh man, it's like by the end it's like it tells me kauskli, that's it. I'm exploding now. You know how it is, right? A person becomes very animalistic like that. So therefore, in order to Hakadosh Baruch Hu doesn't want the Jews to be like that. So therefore, to counteract that animalism of eating, you lift it up by saying a few words of Torah. Everything gets lifted up. It becomes a totally different event. It becomes like a mitzvah what you did. Instead of being something like a pleasure-seeking, kind of exercise, it becomes a mitzvah. So you're elevating, to a different plateau altogether. That's the idea, Rabbi. This is the reason why, and this is the reason, by the way. You know what? You know how it is, right? People always forget this. They say, they go to a meal and it's so delicious. Divrei Torah, not Divrei Torah, it's gaikza, They didn't say no Divrei Torah. So there is actually a good custom to counteract this problem. You know what it is? That before they say Birkat Hamazon, after the meal, if you eat bread, you have to say Birkat Hamazon. So the custom is like this, right? That as we're making Mayim Achorim, like the last water, to wash before you, because your hands are soiled when you have a meal. So the custom is, right, the halacha is that a person has to wash his hands a little bit, just to get the junk off his hands before he blesses, right? So what happens is, right, that the custom is by the Sfardim, we have a good custom. We say, right, when we wash that final washing, we say Mayim Acharonim Chova. You know what that means? Right, that these waters that we're washing now, the final waters, it's an obligation. It's an obligation according to halacha to do that, right? So therefore, right, what does that mean? That we said Divrei Torah, this halacha. So you kill two birds with one stone. You understand? You're also telling people that you have to wash your hands before you finish your meal, right? Before you conclude, and also you're doing the words of Torah right on the table before you say Birkat Hamazon. So kills two birds with one stone. That's the custom of the Sephardim. Okay, Rabbi. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen. Amen. Chazak Baruch. You should all be blessed and have a great holiday. And we'll see you at the barbecue. Right, the special barbecue. God bless. Thanks for coming.
Let's take us off the CNN.